How are you, John?
I'm very good, Chris. Very good.
All right, let's make the big announcement now, and then loads of times in case people have to go out or whatever. You have this great offer on. John is celebrating 25 years behind the microphone, standing up, not sitting down. 25 years, everyone. And he's celebrating with his Opposite of Oasis ticket price tour. That's what it's actually called. Don't know how they're going to fit it on the poster. What's going on, John?
Well, next October, it'll be 25 years since I first ever walked on stage to do a gig.
Do you hear that, everyone? 25 years, first time ever. Yeah, I know.
So that was the first time I ever did the gig. It was October 2000, first time I did an open spot in a comedy club in Manchester called the Frog and Bucket. So next October, I'm going to do an arena tour. I'm going to call the Arena Tour 25. I'm going to make all the tickets £25.
25 quid, that is amazing, isn't it? Round of applause for that. Come on, I mean, that doesn't get any better. Doesn't get any better.
But I also have to say I'm doing all the arenas and the Frog and Bucket.
Yeah, you are. Okay, the Frog and Bucket is going to be a special night for you. What date are you playing that? You can't buy tickets for this yet because they don't go on sale till Friday, so nowhere's sold out. So this is a proper John Bishop gig for 25 quid. Awesome. Tell us about the Frog and Bucket. Tell us about that night. Tell us about your journey since then, and how's it going to be going back?
Well, I've been back a couple of times since, because that's what happens when you're a working comedian. Everyone ends up going back to the clubs. You always have to go back to the clubs to see if you've still got it, as it were, and building up material. But that night was, well, I've said it loads of times before, it was just not planned. I only went because I was sad, because I'd split up with my wife. I was looking for something to do on a Monday night, and I just end up in this place, and my whole life changed within a 15-minute window.
I mean, talk about counterthink. You know, you split up with your life, you're really sad, you go to a comedy club, not just to watch comedy, which I suppose, there's a strategy there that sort of makes sense, I suppose. Some people would probably watch the saddest film in the world, go on a cry fest.
I've done all of
You've done all that, okay, good, excellent, nice work. But you go to the comedy club and not only watch comedy, but end up getting on stage having a go.
I know, but what happened? See, again, I had no interest in comedy before I did it. So I'd been to two comedy clubs in my whole life up to that point. One was the Comedy Store in London, and one was this Frog and Bucket in Manchester on a mate's 21st birthday about 2 years before. And at this point, I was, 34, coming on to 35. And I walked up to the door, and the guy, and I just expected it to be like every other time I've been to a comedy club. Both times I've been, they've been full. So I turned up, and the guy on the door said, it's £4 to get in, unless you put your name down. And I said, well, what do you put your name down for? He said, well, it's an open mic night. And I genuinely didn't even know what that meant. He said, that means if you put your name down and you get up, you don't have to pay £4. And I was getting divorced, so I thought, well, that's £4 she's not getting. So I put my name down, thinking, I'll get in. There'll be 200 or 300 people in there. I'll never get called out. And I walked in. There was 7 people in the room, right? 5 had put the name down, and I got called out second. And I swear, if I'd have been called out third, I probably would have already left, because the guy who was on before me was like a Geordie bloke who I never saw again, who just did chicken impressions.
Were they any good?
It was like, here's a chicken driving a van. I was just sat there thinking, I can't believe this. Here's a chicken playing football. And I thought, and then I got called, and I'll never forget it. Because it did change my life. I got called out and I walked on stage. I'd never been on a stage. I said something about the lights in my eyes. I said something about lorry drivers in France. Because at that time, English lorry drivers were trying to get home and they couldn't get home. And because the French farmers were blocking the roads, you might remember, and they were setting fire to trucks on the road. So all these lorry drivers were on the news going, I can't get home. So I walked on stage and I said, have you seen the news, the French farmers blocking the roads? Wouldn't it have been handy if they'd have done that in 1939? That was my joke. And that got the reaction it just got here. And then I just stood on the stage. And I just went, I'm getting divorced. And then I just started talking about getting divorced. And in all clubs as well, there's a light to tell you your time's up. Yeah. I didn't know about that. So this light started flashing, and I went, "Oh, your light's broke," and I just carried on. And I just spoke about getting divorced. And then when I came off, the lad who's the compere, Mick Ferry, just said you should think of doing this more often.
See, there's so many questions there. I mean, we can talk about anything, but let's just talk about this, right? So that must be so annoying for anybody who's doing comedy, listening to the show now, who's like, grafting at it and thinking about it. Because you stand up there, you're in your mid-30s.
Yeah.
You never even thought about it before.
No.
And it's not so much a sliding doors moment, because I don't believe in sliding doors moments. I think it's all, it's all mapped out. You may not get there one day on Thursday, but you probably get there on Friday. I think it just is. I think that's the way we're going. But for you to A, be getting divorced, B, go to a comedy club on whichever night it was, because you may not have gone. What night was it again?
It was a Monday.
A Monday as well. Jeez, I mean, come on. And then you get up there, and then the chicken bloke that doesn't, did he get the light, or did he go off before the light flashes? Or
I never even noticed the light for him.
And then you go on, and the guy says you might have something going on here. You never have been on the stage before. I presume you weren't nervous, because you're not a nervous kind of person.
No.
Yeah. Not nervous, not bothered, not intentional, and then you end up being one of the most successful comedians ever in Great Britain.
But it's funny though, isn't it? Because like what you're doing now, you do this every day. You talk to millions of people, and then someone says, "Oh God, what's that like?" If it's your natural home, you feel home.
Your true nature.
Yeah, but for me, at that point, I was working for a pharmaceutical company, and I was in charge of a drug that stopped people rejecting their organs after a transplantation.
Right.
So I'd attended organ retrievals. I'd watched transplants taking place. So that's when someone's going to be nervous. I'm looking at people doing life and death decisions. And so all of a sudden I'm walking on a stage just talking. It didn't seem that important to me. And I think I've been lucky in that respect, because I never had that ambition. It's never been that it's never been the thing to get most nervous about.
Okay, it's never been the thing, because you had nothing to lose, but it wasn't even that. It was lower than I've got nothing to lose. It was like, I can't be bothered, and I've got nothing to lose, and I've got nothing to lose, and I still can't be bothered. And then you build up a following, then you build up, your arena tours, then you have TV shows, and you've acted as well. So then you do have something to lose. Not that you ever will, touch wood. So do you get nervous now? Because there's like an expectation and a responsibility, and people have paid to come and see you.
It's interesting. Yeah, there are occasions now where you think, no, I need to make this better. In fact, I did something the other week. Where I did a show in Bloomsbury, and I changed what I was doing, and I thought, what am I doing? And just like, in fact, Fassos, you'll appreciate this as you will. I thought, oh my God, I'm doing something that's outside of what I would normally do, and that's because nobody's coaching me. Like I don't work with other comedians. I don't sit with writers or anything.
Is that because you think working on radio is outside what Vassos normally
No, but
does?
I'm on about, from a sporting perspective. So I've ended up speaking to a friend of mine who's a television producer, Cameron. I said, I need you almost to be like my comedy coach and say, like, what time did you arrive at the venue? Why have you done it this way? Why have you changed the order of the jokes? Just not to get material, just to make it a little bit better, to make the shows a little bit better.
Yeah.
So that's not being nervous, that's just holding a responsibility.
Yeah.
Because now, all I can be is as good as what people are hoping I'm going to be.
Yeah.
Whereas when you start off, you're a surprise to everybody.
Including yourself.
Including yourself,
How
definitely.
surprised were you?
On that first night, you know what? I remember standing on the stage thinking, what am I doing here? And then I thought, well, what have I got to lose? If I go home, I'm going back to an empty house, and there's only 7 people in here, and one of them thinks he's a chicken. So I thought, I've got literally nothing to lose. And that, I think, was
freeing.
Probably, yeah. Whereas if it had been somebody who wanted to do comedy and then entered the comedy competition, it would have meant something to me.
I was going to ask you about the French lorry drivers, Sorry, the people blockading, which they were French lorry drivers, weren't they? And the British lorry drivers getting home. You have a thick Scouse accent. It's rather wonderful. It's beautiful. I love your accent. I love the Scouse accent generally. But you put on a different accent for the British lorry driver coming back.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. Oh, we've got to get home, like,
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
That's
No, well, that was me being an actor because I'm still, there might be a casting agent listening to this.
Well, it's
who
very
thinks
good.
I
But
need
do
somebody
you hear-
who can be generally northern.
It's funny though that you don't, because I would say some people probably hear lorry drivers as Scousers, but you obviously hear lorry drivers as maybe Manx. I don't know.
I've got to be honest. I would have said he was more Warrington.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think you were creeping towards definitely on the way to Manchester.
I was on the M62 somewhere with that accent.
So you've just got back from Ireland, right?
Yeah.
And so in lots of the new shtick, I don't know if that's the tour that's here, or was it the Irish tour, where you talk about being Irish, which is hilarious.
Well, I did a television show, the DNA Stories, where they look into your family tree. And I've been interested in my family tree, and I've had this affinity with Ireland, this affection for Ireland, that I could never really put my finger on. And in fact, this summer, I did the tour. I've had a midlife crisis, and I've got a motorbike, right? I've done my motorbike test last October.
Careful now.
I know, yeah. So I went and I thought, I'm going to tour around Ireland on my motorbike. And this is it. So I said to me promoter, get venues. And there was some normal sized venues, but then a lot of villages, a lot of tiny places. In fact, I got a phone call off Liverpool Football Club saying, look, Jurgen Klopp's going to leave. And he wants to do one last thing, which is have an interview for the fans at 10,000 people at the arena in Liverpool. And he's asked, will you do the interview? I said, I'd love to. What's the date? And he said, May the 28th. And I looked at my diary. I said, I've got a gig in Belmullet. And Liverpool Football Club said, where's Belmullet? I said, I haven't got a clue. And I looked, it's a little thing. So this is how small the venues were. I phoned me promoter, Brendan, up. I said, Bren, look, I've got a chance to interview Jurgen Klopp. I said, how hard is it going to be to move that gig in Belmullet? He said, I'll phone one person in the village and he can tell everyone else.
No way!
It was literally a tiny little
funny,
village.
man.
So I was doing all of these. But because I was doing little venues, I ran out of tickets. And because the show is about me being Irish and my love of Ireland, I wanted to have one last send-off. So I did the arena on Saturday in Dublin.
And you loved it?
Oh,
well, I just asked John about it, and he leant back in his chair, and he opened his arms and all the chakras, and opened his heart and went, oh, it was great.
It was.
Tell me about that feeling and that emotion which made you open up like that just now.
Because there's something everyone talks about arena comedy and whether it works or it doesn't work, and obviously it does because loads of people doing it. But what's good about it is that because the screens are there, the nuance of what's going on in your face gets seen by everybody. And all of a sudden, it feels like you're intimate with everyone. And then when you've got like 9,000 people like I had on Saturday who give you a standing ovation at the end or laugh at the same time, the energy that gives you. And it's not like an ego boost. It's a pure reciprocal love.
Yeah, of course it is.
Because the thing with comedy is it's the most instant form of communication. You say something, people laugh or they don't laugh.
Yeah.
There's no one thinks about laughing and comes back the next day.
Yeah.
And so to have that instant reaction and somewhere like
Nobody
Dublin,
emails you the laugh after the gig.
No one says, yeah, we've considered
That
it. And that
was funny.
That was more amusing than we
Apologise for not
thought
laughing at the time. We just weren't sure.
Yeah.
We wanted to discuss it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't even know if things are funny until you go out.
No, and that's why we're talking about doing the clubs and doing the Frog and Bucket again. You have to go out and do it. You can't. You'll never... you never get a studio album of a comedian. You never get somebody who's never spoke to anyone about it and then just releases something. What's in your head is not always as funny as it leaves your mouth.
And the whole thing about, because you didn't make it in your mid-30s, that's when you started.
Yeah.
When you say whatever that term means, by the way, let's hold it very loosely. When do you think, how old were you when you made it? Were you yet to hit 40? You were 40?
I left my job, but no, hang on. I would have been 42 because I left my job at 40, so that was 2006, and I think I had the big breakthrough 44, about 2010.
So, because I remember, because we're both approaching 60, and I remember you had your 50th, and so it wasn't that much long before that then.
No, it wasn't.
So much happened so fast for you, didn't it?
It did, and it's a funny thing when you're in this business as well, because you sort of, you bounce along from one thing to another, and sometimes it's taking a step, and that's what this tour is next year, is to take a step and mark it and go, oh my God, this is a thing to celebrate. That's why I wanted to remove any hassle to people coming and just make it dead easy and make it as cheap as possible and just go, I want to thank the millions of people and it has been millions over the years, who've bought tickets to come and see me. I want to say, like, thanks, and come back again and just have a big warm hug.
Some people have just got whatever it is that other people like. JohnBishopOnline.com is where you need to go for these amazing tickets for his 2025 25th anniversary tour for 25 quid. And these tickets go on sale on Friday, don't they? Yeah, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. If James Corden was on the show a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
So James Corden's on the show and he's talking about, in that chair where you are now, he's talking about Gavin and Stacey, and they're just about to start filming the last episode, right? And then Dawn French was on the show a few months before that, sitting in the chair where you are. If you go on my Instagram feed now and look at the number of hits that they get, they are in the millions, right? James and Dawn specifically. Arnie was in that chair. He gets $1 million odd. Tom Hanks was in that chair. He gets $1 million odd. But James and Dawn, millions and millions and millions, right? And you're the same. You have this thing. And by the way, there's been some other national treasures that have sat in that chair, and they get like 500,000, 600,000 views of these reels, right? But Dawn French, James Corden, John Bishop, through the roof. Do you recognise that? Do you feel it?
Now I've got a challenge, haven't I? Because we haven't put it out yet.
No, but you said no. That's not what I mean. But you're cut from the same cloth. What is that about? Are you aware of it?
Wow, that's a harder question to answer and be honest than you would imagine, because you don't know, do you? You can only be you.
But what is that about? James and Dawn, through the like millions and millions and millions.
What I think with both of my experience with James and Dawn, and it'd be something that I'd like to think I've got, is they've got humility. They both appreciate the position that they're in. Yep. Like, I appreciate the position they're in. I know you appreciate the position that you're in. I know that, radio is your first love, and the fact that you can do it every day comes from a love of doing radio. Yeah. If it wasn't here...
It's like oxygen.
Yeah, if it wasn't here, you'd be doing it in Manchester. You'd be doing it. It's what you got to do. And, like, stand-up comedy's like what I feel I've got to do.
Right, pause. Brilliant. Okay, so... Stand-up, you just said out loud, stand-up comedy is what I feel like I've got to do, right? But before you were 35, wasn't even on the radar. Yeah. What is extraordinary about you, John, is that you feel about it now like how you just described. But before that, you didn't even have a sense that it was there. That's extraordinary. Dawn was always doing comedy. She was always acting. She was always writing. James was always singing. He was always dancing, that kind of stuff. But you are completely different. I think that is A, brilliant, B, fascinating.
Well, it's what's interesting about that. When I said I went to the Comedy Store as one of the two comedy clubs I went to, I went with work. It was a works do. And I remember Bernadette, who worked in medical information in our office. I remember the comedian, Sean Mayo was the comedian on stage. He'd just done his set, goes off stage. And she said to me, you should do that. And I said, what? She said, you should be a comedian. And I'm a sales manager. What do you mean be a comedian? I thought, well, it just never entered my head. And when I started doing it, I was doing it almost for therapy, I suppose, but I wasn't doing it thinking I was going to have a job. I did it for nearly enough 6 years before I left my job, because I had a very good job, and I thought, there's no way that this can replace that. No chance.
See, but that's unique as well, because nobody else has ever done that. Nobody else has been good at something, really enjoyed it, but thought, however, I do have a really extraordinarily good job, which I quite like, I'm paid well for, so I'm going to crack on with that, because this side hustle, because it is still a side hustle, is never going to out-hustle what I do for a living, which is also really interesting.
I know,
as well.
But you know what was happening? It was interesting because my generation was like Alan Carr, Michael McIntyre, Jimmy Carr. They were like on the circuit when I was on the circuit, and I could see them moving off and doing well. And I remember thinking, if I don't give this a go, I'm going to blame the fact that I've got kids and a mortgage, and I'm going to be that kind of guy who blame my own kids for me not having the bottle to have a go. Yeah. And what was the tipping point is I ended up doing sportsman's dinners in the middle of the week. So I could do a club and you might get 120 quid or something for doing a set in a club. It might be 2 or 3, but a sportsman's dinner I could get 500 quid.
Yeah.
700 quid.
Right, so that's sort of the money side of it.
That will go. And I remember sitting Melanie down saying, listen, I've got to give this a go. And she said, I don't care what you do. You know what the bills are. You know what? I said, yes. She said, I'll support you. I said, I won't earn less money. I'll go self-employed and I'll work it this way. No. And for the first 3 years, I had to keep adding to the mortgage to get through. And then on the 4th year, it turned the corner.
Could talk to you all morning, John. Seriously, great. Are you going to book the same pub for your 60th as you did for your 50th?
I might do, actually. Remembered, yeah.
Funny, man. John, we're out of time, man.
Oh, no. Well, this is great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're very welcome.
In this busy slot pre-9 o'clock.
Yeah, well, we don't have guests on anymore, but you're John Bishop. So, johnbishoponline.com.